The really surprising thing is just how quickly the outbreak appears to have exploded. This isn't a dress rehearsal. This has the full potential to become a pandemic.
You must stay at home.
If we lose, we will regret it.
You can see that in this wave we're in at the moment, it's about 59,700. In the first wave, 57,700. So it's about 2,000 more in this wave. The second wave has a higher death toll already than the first wave. But I mentioned...
In step 2, non-essential retail will reopen, as will personal care, including hairdressers, I'm glad to say, and nail salons. Indoor leisure facilities such as gyms will reopen, as will holiday lets, but only for use by individuals or household groups. We will begin to reopen our...
The streets of Paris are once again eerily quiet. Fear of a third wave, with cases on the rise across Europe, is forcing new lockdowns to spread across the continent.
So are today's headlines correct? Are mass gatherings set to be banned?
Well, I don't want to speculate on announcements that are going to come through next week, but what I will say is, we do know we're going to keep on taking the right steps at the right time so that we are best prepared for managing coronavirus.
I know this is a very different crisis, but when you look at the economic outlook, the lockdowns that we're seeing that are extending now in time.
Second, you're absolutely right. With further lockdowns, the situation could look gloomier. However, it is to be noted that we've adapted to the lockdowns.
What I would counsel is caution at the moment for people to hold off on booking, because as anybody can see, we're in a situation where there are rising rates in many countries in Europe, and we know that also something that comes with rising rates is the increased risk of variants. That's why it's so important that we're going to be able to test more rapidly for variants of concern, as I've outlined. So I would say to people, just hold off.
My colleague, the Transport Secretary, said only recently that it's highly unlikely we'll be able to go on foreign holidays as such, this side of May or indeed in early May. But we're going to wait for these task force to report to the Prime Minister in April. They're going to take a look at it. We can't be deaf and blind to what's going on outside the United Kingdom. If you look in Europe, the increases of infections, and we can't put at risk the huge amount of effort by the taxpayer, by the NHS, by our scientists in developing this vaccine.
Great uncertainty with the mutations. The mutations will take over, the old virus will disappear. We have to live with the new virus, and we cannot estimate this new virus. There can be exponential growth again. That is why we have to ensure tracking, and that is why we have to be so careful.
In France, President Macron's locking down certain regions again, including Paris. How damaging is this going to be?
Well, look, there's two ways to look at this. One is politically, and politically it's a major cold shower for Emmanuel Macron. He had said for weeks that he was not going to lock down the country, that he would not go there. And he repeated, when you look at the French vaccination, okay, we're slower than everyone else, but we've not had to lock down the country. Now you're looking at a double whammy in which you're still behind and you're now having to lock down the country. Now,
well, I've talked to our friends repeatedly over the period. We're all facing the same pandemic. We all have the same problems. I think it's one thing that's worth stressing is that on the continent right now, you can see, sadly, there is a third wave underway, and people in this country should be under no illusions that previous experience has taught us that when a wave hits our friends, it I'm afraid washes up on our shores as well, and I expect that we will feel those effects in due course. In
a way, it was a mistake to give people dates to look forward to.
Indeed.
Because people think,
because we do. We're making plans.
Psychologically, we're making plans.
Of course we are.
Continental Europe is preparing for a third wave of coronavirus amid a surge in new cases and a shortage of vaccines that can reduce the spread of the disease. Large parts of France are going into lockdown again tonight amid a sharp rise in cases. Only 8% of the population has been vaccinated. Switzerland is extending its restrictions. Poland, where the surge is being driven by the variant from southern England, is going into partial lockdown. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel has today said it's now probable that restrictions will have to be reimposed too
headed
in
into
Germany.
another lockdown.
The vaccine rollout across
Hospitals are under pressure, with more people in ICU beds right now than during the second wave.
On n'est pas actuellement au point de rupture.
We are not at the breaking point yet, says this doctor, but we are coming very close. It's a similar situation in Germany, where COVID numbers have spiked to levels not seen in months.
Es gibt in Europa noch nicht.
In Europe, there are not enough vaccines to stop the third wave, says the German health minister, who is now looking to the Russian vaccine as a possibility.
We are in the crisis of the century.
This morning, half of Italy under lockdown. Venice, Rome and Milan, now high-risk red zones. Streets deserted, schools and shops closed again. Exhausted Italians back where they began when the pandemic was first declared a year ago.